Boring versus creative. What's the difference when it comes to shooting smartphone B-roll, and how can we take an ordinary boring shot that looks like this and turn it into something that looks like this? Well, in this video, I'm going to be giving you some simple tips that anyone can do. These will dramatically improve the look of your footage. It's coming up. Hey everyone, Steve here from Learn Online Video, and today we're talking all about smartphone B-roll and how we can make our boring footage look much more creative by applying just a few simple tips and techniques. These tips and techniques can be applied to any location using just about any camera. And to demonstrate this today, I've come here to the ass end of nowhere where literally nothing exciting is happening. We've just got this tree and some rocks. So if it's possible to make this location look exciting, it's possible to make any location look exciting. Now, I'm going to be capturing two sequences at this location today. The first will be how someone who's just starting out might capture this location, including all the mistakes they might make. And the second will be how somebody with a lot more knowledge, experience, and creativity might capture those exact same shots. We're going to be thinking about camera movement, angles, framing, lighting, and at the end of this video, I'm going to edit both of those sequences using music, color grading, and sound effects to see what results we get. Hopefully, you'll be able to see a huge difference between those two sequences and have a much better understanding as to why one looks much more creative than the other. You can then apply those exact same techniques to your films and videos. I'm going to be shooting everything handheld on the iPhone 12, no gimbals or fancy camera accessories today, but as always, my camera settings and all gear used in this video will be linked in the description below. And with all that out of the way, let's jump straight into this tutorial with tip number one, which is avoid eye level. Now, the default way for most beginners to shoot is like this, stood up, camera at eye level, because this is the easiest and most natural way. But the problem with this, of course, is that this is the same angle that we see everything at every single day. So it's not particularly exciting and it's a little bit boring. Let's see a quick example. Here he is, look, Mr. Boring, stood up with his camera at eye level, about to film this rock. Panning, tilting, how bloody boring. Okay, camera pans, tilts, terrible composition, clipped his shadow in the shot, no real thought has gone into camera movement, average at best. So how can we be more creative and how can we make our shots look more interesting? Well, let's start basic and again, use this rock as an example. First thing we're going to do is get lower. Remember, avoid eye level. By getting lower, we've completely changed the composition of this shot. It's much more interesting. We've got the sky, the horizon, the shot has more depth and it's a lot less boring. Okay, quick reminder here, this is shot number one, really not great, and by simply changing our composition, we get shot number two. This time I've added a push forward movement to make it even more interesting. Equally, we could orbit our camera around the rock. Slow this footage down, add some music, cinematic bars, and a color grade, and we've now got something even more creative, but let's save these edits for the end of the video. Okay, let's talk more about camera movement. Camera movement will instantly make your footage look more interesting and creative, so take advantage of it. Oh look, here he is, he's back, Mr. Boring. This time he's trying to set the scene. Let's see what he's gonna do. He's at eye level again. He's panning, he's tilting. Let's take a look. Okay, camera pans to the right and lands on the tree and the rock. Not bad, but definitely room for improvement. This time I'm going to get low, push forward, and then lift my camera up as I get closer to my focal point. This replicates a gimbal-like movement as the camera pushes forward, up and over this rock. This would look great with some music and a color grade. Now, if you don't have a bunch of fancy camera accessories like gimbals or sliders, then think about how your camera would move if it was on a slider or a gimbal, and then try to replicate that same movement using your hands. Experiment with the settings on your camera. Shooting in slow motion will help smooth out your footage. Also, don't forget to capture detailed shots and experiment with frame rates and focal lengths. This was shot using the standard lens in slow motion, and by locking focus, we now get this soft focus, blurry background for a much more stylized, cinematic, and creative look. Link your shots. Okay, let's talk about linking shots because this is really, really important. A surefire way to make your footage look more boring is to put zero thought into how you're going to link one shot to another. Take Mr. Boring, for example. He might grab a quick shot of this tree like this, followed by a shot of these flowers like this. And when we cut these two shots together, we get this. Not bad, but definitely not great. Let's put more effort into linking these shots. Let's specifically shoot two shots that we know we can link together. For the first shot, I'm going to start with my camera high up. I'm going to tap my screen to lock focus and exposure, hit record, and then move my camera down using these rocks to fill the frame. We now have a shot that starts up high, falls, and ends with rocks passing through the frame. Okay, for the second shot, let's move locations and change our composition. Exactly the same again. Tap and hold your screen to lock focus and exposure, hit record, only this time we're going to start with the rocks passing through our frame. Try to keep the same speed and movement as shot number one. Now, when we edit these two clips together, we get this, a much smoother, more seamless transition. Let's see one more example, similar transition, only this time we're going to point our camera up and slide it to the right, using these rocks as foreground to wipe through the frame. And for the second shot, I'm going to start from behind these rocks and slide my camera to the right to reveal this tree. Edit these two clips together and we get this. Linking your shots is a great way to make your footage stand out. Now, if being more creative and mobile filmmaking is something that you're into, then I highly recommend checking out the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives that literally has thousands of classes on topics including illustration, design, photography, mobile filmmaking. Great if you're looking to deep dive into a particular subject and learn a new skill. I recently took a class by Dan Mace called Filmmaking for All, Tell Your Story Through Video. He covers everything from how to plan, shoot, and edit your videos and gives really good tips and techniques that can be applied to just about any video project, so well worth checking out. If you'd like to take a class, learn a new skill, and be more creative, you can do so for free if you are one of the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description. So if you're a creative looking to learn, explore, and discover new things, then Skillshare really is the place to do it. You can binge knowledge to your heart's content. So you've got nothing to lose. Use the link, take a class, soak up some knowledge, and get creative. Check your horizon. Now, before taking any shot, always ask yourself, where is the horizon within my frame? Take Mr. Boring, for example. He couldn't give a flying monkeys about his horizon. He's only thinking about his focal point. Here he is, once again, grabbing some footage of these rocks, but where is the horizon within his frame? It's nowhere to be seen. Now this time, instead of shooting at eye level, pointing down, I'm gonna get in amongst these rocks. So I'm gonna put my camera between these two rocks like this. I'm gonna shoot using the wide angle lens, hit record, and pull back. And by simply getting lower and putting the horizon in the background of this shot combined with this slow motion pullback, we now get a much more interesting and creative shot. Here's another example of some pink flowers, no horizon in this shot. Now let's get a lower angle, include the horizon, and add some movement to this shot. And as you can see, with just a few simple tweaks, we now have a much more professional and creative looking shot. Also, don't forget about time lapses. These are a great way of adding more movement to your footage. I'm going to select time-lapse mode, use my wide-angle lens, and then lean my phone against this rock. I'm going to tap and hold my screen to lock focus and exposure. I'm going to hit record and then sit tight for around about 5 minutes. And the result, a shot that has plenty of movement, and we didn't even need to move our camera. Also, another quick tip here, if you don't have time to wait around for a time-lapse, then another great way to add more movement to your shot is to get your camera nice and low to the ground. The closer your camera is to the ground, the more the movement will be emphasized. Lighting. Now, I can't talk about being more creative with our shots without talking about lighting, because this is such an important part. Now, my biggest tip here is to play with light. Take this shot here, for example. I'm going to point my camera up and use these rocks to reveal the sun. Shoot towards the sun, but put something between you and the sun. Look for shadows on the ground with gaps. These gaps are a great way to create flickering light. The aim here is to create flickering light and sun flares. You can do this by using simple camera movements. Lens flares add more creativity to your shots and help your footage feel more professional and cinematic. So that was how a beginner might capture this location, as well as someone with a bit more experience and creativity. Now let's edit these two sequences together to see the results, starting with the beginner B-roll sequence. Okay, so what did you think? I mean, I've seen worse, but now let's take a look at the creative edit. So what did you think? Hopefully you could see a big difference between those two sequences and see how by simply applying some of these tips and techniques, you can dramatically improve the look of your footage. If you found this video useful, do let me know by giving it the old thumbs up. Don't forget there's a free trial to Skillshare Premium in the description below. And if you'd like to see more content like this, learn more about video production, you can do that by watching one of my other videos just over there. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.